Welcome to Show Me the Money, the money podcast that's more Bloomingdale's than Bank of England. I'm Ellie.
And I'm Claire. And each week we discuss how money shows up in some of our favourite pop culture, from the classic to the nostalgic to the contemporary. And we're really leaning into nostalgia with this mini-series. If you haven't listened already, we've already done a mini-series on Sex and the City. But today we're going to start our Friends mini-series.
Yay! I feel like this is one that we couldn't not do.
No.
Because it is like the ultimate nostalgia for millennials, like anyone growing up in like the 90s and the noughties, like whether you were a hardcore fan or whether you were kind of like just in and out of it, you couldn't escape it.
Yeah, I heard someone say it was like sort of stained onto the fabric of their life. And I think that's the thing, is like you couldn't get away from it because our like entertainment wasn't as siloed back then as it is now. It was often just on.
Yes, I remember like on a Saturday morning you just put on Channel 4 and it would just be on.
Yeah, and I even remember like who all the sponsors were. Like it was so when it cut to an ad break. But I think like we had originally discussed maybe doing this as an episode, and then we just there's actually so much money stuff in there that it could only ever be its own series. But we've decided to cut the cake a little bit differently this time, haven't we? So
yes,
when we did Sex and the City, we did an episode for each series and then one for the movie and one for And Just Like That. But this time we're going to do a character per episode.
Just before we kind of dive into the individual characters, then we wanted to chat a little bit about the episode, which is, I guess, the most talked about when it comes to money. And there have been countless videos, YouTubes, takes, articles on this episode because it's probably the one where it's most, I guess, overt. And there are lots of other episodes where money comes up, and we'll talk about those as we go through. But the one with 5 steaks and an eggplant is the episode in series 2 where we see money being like at the forefront, and effectively it really brings to the fore the difference and the challenge of negotiating money in a group of friends where you have different means.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's been loads of discourse about this recently, like articles about splitting the bill with your friends, I think, because we're in kind of a cost of living crisis. And it's not, to call it cost of living crisis is quite oversimplifying, isn't it? I think what it has been like a bit of a tectonic shift in which some people were on one plate and other people were on the others. And what's actually potentially happened is that like people's circumstances have moved further away from one another. So it's kind of the like same storm, different boat type thing. And so we've seen I've definitely seen a lot of articles recently that are about like, how to navigate money with friends, how to split the bill. And this episode, which aired in, I think, 1995, just shows that like in 31 years, the issue is still like right at the center of a lot of friendships.
Yeah.
And there haven't been like that many shows kind of brave enough or skillful enough to handle it in the way that Friends does, because it's the writing in those early seasons was really top notch, and this episode is like a really good example of how to navigate that in a way that shows that situation from all sides, because I don't think that anybody is made out to be the villain particularly.
No, and I think that's what's so important, because I think often in these discussions about this, it often gets portrayed that the person with more financial means should be more sensitive. And it's not to say that that's not the case sometimes, but I think the most helpful thing about this episode is that it does take into account like all of the different perspectives, because I guess the premise really is that Monica has got a promotion.
Yeah, and it's Ross's birthday party. Yeah. So there's like the scene setting is like Chandler comes in and asks everyone, they're doing like a whip round for Ross's birthday, and it's $62 each, which is quite a lot in the 90s.
Yeah.
It's quite a lot now, I think, just for a friend's birthday.
Yeah, it's probably like £50 or so.
Yeah, exactly. And so Phoebe says, are you sure you're not rounding up from like $20, which it like, you know, she kind of takes the lead a little bit on pushing this in this episode. But that's what like exposes kind of this divide between the friends of you've got like the really like well employed Monica is a sous chef. She must be being paid quite well in New York City. have known a lot of sous chefs in my life, and the salaries aren't like generally great here. But you know, she's got kind of like a professional job. Ross is a paleontologist. He's like college educated.
Works at the Natural History Museum. So stable employment.
Exactly. And then Chandler, who's a sort of corporate corporate minion, I suppose, which we'll talk about more in his episode. But then the other three, we've got an out-of-work actor, a masseuse. Now, again, we can talk about this in Phoebe's episode. I think Phoebe would be making bank in 2026 with all of the like alternative stuff, especially if she got in with the like Maha crowd. And then Rachel, who's a waitress, who's kind of like essentially cut herself off from her like family wealth. But yeah, you're right. It's Monica, like the kind of thing that really ignites everything is Monica gets this promotion and insists that they go out to celebrate somewhere nice.
Yeah. And I think that also like starts off, I guess, the train of events. It's like the somewhere nice, like define somewhere nice. And what we see here is that there's this kind of equation, which does still happen with like somewhere nice being somewhere that's quite expensive.
Yeah. And I think, you know, there's clear like discomfort around the table. Obviously, like the three who can afford it are just sort of ordering like whatever they want. And then you've got Phoebe orders like a cup of cucumber soup. Joey does order, like, I think it's so like well observed that Joey still orders the thing that he wants, even though he can't really afford it. He orders like a pizza. And Rachel orders a side salad, and that one always sticks in my head because she's like, I'll have the side salad, and the waiter's like, and what would that be on the side of? And she goes, why don't you just put it here next to my water? Which like just that. Almost every episode has a line that is like etched onto my brain. There's like discomfort around the table, and they've obviously all made an effort to order something that they could afford from the menu. And then when it comes back at the end, Ross is splitting the bill as like just splitting it evenly, and that's when the confrontation.
You know, I think what's great about this is that Phoebe does take the lead and actually does bring this up and doesn't just let it wash, which I think is probably the reality for a lot of situations, that people find themselves in a situation where the bill's being split evenly, even if they've ordered something much cheaper to be able to afford it, and they're not comfortable enough to say, actually, like, I'm on a budget, or I ordered this, so could we split it by item? And I mean, again, there's so many different ways to approach this, but I really think that like having that conversation at the start is like the easiest 100%. Way to handle it.
Absolutely. But the other thing, if you are all itemizing and paying by item, is that sometimes the person who's the last one ends up with like paying for like more than their
and the service charge.
Fair share and the service charge. I always remember Alex Holder wrote something, I think it was for Vogue, like years ago. I don't know if it was an excerpt from her book, but it was about splitting the bill, and it was about how she's kind of shifted it to be like, do you reframe it from like the money that you're paying being for the specific food and drink that you consumed, or is the price that you pay for the evening and the experience with your friends? And I think I love that. I really like that.
Yeah.
And like, just to really emphasize it, that is like coming at it from a point of view of not having to worry about every penny. And I do think that even if you're doing it on a budget, you should definitely be able to still go out and enjoy an evening with your friends without worrying that that's going to catch you off guard at the end.
Totally.
But that's why the conversation is important.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we've kind of set the scene in that episode is something that we will come back to throughout the different characters' arcs as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, we could chat about that episode alone for ages, but
yeah, it could be an episode.
I do want to get into Rachel because I think she's got such an interesting journey throughout the series. And as we see there early on, she is literally having to figure it out herself. She's been cut off. She's a waitress, and we know notoriously that waitresses in America, New York City, are terribly paid. I actually was looking into this and I found that it was worse than I realised because they don't even have a minimum wage.
They don't have to be paid minimum wage. No,
they get paid like $2 an hour or something.
And there's actually an episode, there's a moment in an episode where Rachel gets her first
Yes.
paycheck and she's like, who's this biker guy?
Yeah,
Why is he
it's
taking all of my money?
Tax.
Yeah, it's like her federal taxes. And then all of the other friends are like, oh, great service today, because they obviously haven't been tipping her. But yeah, it's so, I think Rachel's a really interesting one because she has made a choice to, you know, she was getting married to an orthodontist. I'm presuming Barry was a bit older than her. I mean, he certainly looks older than her.
Yeah.
But everyone looks like older in the 90s. I've been watching ER recently.
Oh,
and
gosh. Yeah, it's the hair.
It's the hair. And it was before everyone in America had their teeth done.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Barry is like an orthodontist, obviously like very well off. They were supposed to be going to Aruba. There's her parents obviously are well off. She's childhood friends with Ross and Monica, and I think their parents are like friends or kind of like in the same social
circles.
circle.
Yeah.
And so like similarly wealthy. But Jack Geller says that her wedding to Barry cost her parents $40,000, which is a lot.
It's a lot of money to not go through with it.
Yeah. So like she's coming from this real enormous financial privilege, and she has all of the like idiosyncrasies of that. Like she still calls her dad daddy.
Yeah.
You know, and she actually like cuts herself off with the encouragement of her friends, which is kind of like a brave thing to do. Like she ditches this secure, safe life to go and start from scratch and be a waitress and work. Like, I mean, does she work that hard?
No.
She mostly just chats to her friends, and we don't really see her at work when they're not there. But you know, having been a waitress for like a long time when I was younger, it's like quite stressful and quite hard work sometimes. So yeah, she like makes that choice herself.
Yeah, I think it is brave. And I think, you know, obviously there's the caveat that like she probably knows that she could go back. And it's not the same as like if you've literally got nothing to fall back on, if everything all goes tits up. But she doesn't have to do that. Like, I think there's obviously this element of maybe she feels as though like the financial propping up from her family has led her to have to kind of make decisions that keep them happy. And in deciding not to go through with the wedding, it's almost like this, okay, like I'm just going to reject all of it. So reject the wedding, reject the lifestyle, and like try and kind of carve my own path.
Well, and she is successful at that. You know, she goes from being a woman who celebrates her financial independence from her father by buying a new pair of boots on her dad's credit card, to having like a really high-powered job in the fashion industry, you know, to being like very well thought of and highly regarded in that world. Whereas she would probably just have been like an orthodontist's wife. And maybe she would have found some like purpose and meaning in that as well. But it wouldn't be the like competent Rachel Green that we see by the end of the show. I
mean, she also has very good fashion.
Oh God, her wardrobe's so good. I was watching the episode where she and Phoebe go to get a tattoo and she's wearing those tartan trousers and just like a black top. She's never overdone at all. She just has really good clothes.
Yeah, and I saw a few kind of articles commentating on this, discussing like, is it realistic that she would have these clothes? But I think, you know, as we go, maybe at the start, she might have a lot of the clothes from previously when she was still on daddy's credit cards.
And
But
she's not a Carrie Bradshaw. She's
No.
not dripping in designer head to toe or like super flamboyant. She just looks really good.
yeah, she's just well put together. And then as soon as you start working in fashion, I guess, she's probably going to get access to things like sample sales. And so I do think there is an element of like maybe like it is realistic. And I know we'll talk about it more when we get on to Monica, but it's also kind of can't be skipped over that we know that she is living in the rent controlled apartment with Monica, which costs maximum $100 a month for her. And so, yes, you're going to have all of your income available to spend on what you want, even if your income's not that high.
Yeah, and I think that is the thing, isn't it? It's like, you know, in our household, like our household income is high, but our outgoings are also really, really high.
Yeah.
Like we've got 3 children, things like childcare, just paying for them to do various fucking clubs, like swimming lessons, like all of that stuff, which a lot of it, you know, some of it's essential, some of it isn't. But like if you are, I suppose, kind of in your 20s and just starting out, if you can get the essentials affordably, which is like housing, you know, utilities, which obviously they're sharing between them, between the two of them. And, you know, she doesn't have like a commute. Her work is downstairs. You know, so kind of you can like really bootstrap. And I think that ability to bootstrap and the ability to keep your outgoings low is something that is really lacking for like young people, like people in their 20s today, which is why it's so hard to get like a foothold.
I think it's one of, if not the biggest factors that you can have that helps like with your financial future. And again, I feel like it often kind of goes a little bit under the radar. And, you know, you see people saying, oh, yeah, I lived at home for a bit. But like, how often do we actually go through what that looks like and the financial impact that living at home for years in your 20s can have? Because it's literally thousands of pounds a month difference, even if you're paying like basic rent to your parents. And so much of it obviously depends on, you know, did you grow up in a place where you then can live and start your career? And like, I didn't. And so it was never really an option. So from as soon as I moved to London, I was having to pay like £1,000 a month minimum in rent. Whereas I know people who, like that just wasn't an issue because they lived in like the suburbs of London and so could just commute in.
Yeah, because every pay rise you're getting, you're obviously like paying more tax. So like your pay rise isn't equivalent to what that actually means to you like materially. Then you might be, especially at the moment, might be hitting all kinds of like tax cliffs. So yeah, the key really is being able to keep those living costs down, which, you know, essential living costs are just so high now. And like in New York City, absolutely
even higher.
Like even higher. But yeah, I think, you know, we are seeing Rachel start again from the privilege of like having a friend who, you know, Monica's very good to her, given that she's been like ditched for quite a long time. Like the reason Rachel shows up there is because Monica was not invited to the wedding. So they've clearly drifted quite a lot. But obviously, you know, that is what it's like with these really old enduring friendships, is that as soon as you get back into it, it's like no time's passed. I don't think that that's like unrealistic. But Monica's very good, like just has her come move in. I don't know how long before it is that Phoebe's moved out, because that's their kind of origin story, is that they met through being roommates, but Phoebe has had to move out because Monica's driven her too crazy. And she lives with her grandmother at the start of the series. But like, you know, she obviously is able to get that steady footing, but she doesn't just coast then. She doesn't just like stay working at the coffee house. She kind of like does actually follow her dreams. She becomes very, independent and kind of also like confident enough to make the decision to like become a single mother when she gets pregnant with Emma, when she and Ross are not together. So, you know, she's definitely the character who has the most growth. And she is one who they don't really caricaturize as much, I don't think. I think you know, she still has that like slightly ditzy element, but that I think that's just true to character. I don't think that they over egg that too much.
No, and I think what I really like about her is that like there are elements of her story and her journey that are like kind of aspirational, but like not too aspirational. Like she's still relatable. And like you said at the start, there's definitely like imperfections in all of the characters, but she's not presented to be this like perfect, like idealistic character. Yes, she has a great career. Yeah, she has a great wardrobe. Yeah, she's got this great setup with her friends, but she's not foolproof. Like she's got her own issues. She's got like road bumps that she hits throughout the series in different ways. And I think that's what makes her really likable.
How do you feel about her getting off the plane? Because obviously she's giving up this amazing career opportunity to essentially go back to someone with whom it has not worked for various reasons so many times. And some of it, like some of the reasons why they don't get together or why they split up or whatever are like quite convoluted and get more so throughout the series. But yeah, I just wondered, what do you think about that? Because the internet has strong opinions.
Yeah, I'm kind of okay with it. I'm kind of quite happy, I think, deep down, because yeah, I always had the sense that they would figure it out and they would end up together. And
yeah,
I think I would have been a bit disappointed had that not happened.
Yeah, same. And I think, you know, we're quite averse to happy endings these days, aren't we? But I really like them. So no, I think there are a few different things. Like if she had stayed in like the middle of nowhere in order to stay and be a housewife to Ross instead of going and fulfilling her dreams. But like Paris, New York, like, you know, it's not like you're not going to get an incredible job in fashion in New York.
Exactly.
And equally, like now she could just do that job remotely since COVID, so it's fine. But you know, there's the other things where I was like, well, how are they going to do it with Emma? Like, how can she take it? How can she take their baby?
It's not great for Emma.
It's not great for Emma, you know, and yeah, I don't like. It's not just Ross that she would be staying for. She's got like all
her
of these friendships,
network,
her whole life, you know. So yeah, I'm like glad she got off the plane, mostly because I think that she can still have this like incredible career. If you think like they're vying for her in Paris, you think that like no one's going to snap her up in New York.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is that really funny like there's that really funny montage where Ross is trying to keep her job for her and get her boss to offer her more money. And he keeps having to like trade in dinosaur artifacts for the guy's son. So it was I still think it was good at the end. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, she's a good place to start because I do think that she's the character who has, like the other characters have really good growth arcs, but I think that she is the character whose growth kind of from the first moment of season 1 to like the last part of season 10. And I know that people would argue that like getting off the plane is regression. I don't think that it is. I just think
it's just a different path forward.
It's choosing a different path. It's like when people are constantly going on about Steve and Miranda, and I've already said my piece on this in the Sex and the City miniseries, but I just think like, why is it that the only empowering choice that a woman can make is to choose work? I just don't agree with that. I think that you can choose love and still be like, still be powerful and still be like kick ass. I don't understand why it has to be that you have to always choose work in order to like, that's not the only valid choice.
No. And I guess just to kind of round up Rachel's journey, do you think that on the whole, Rachel, we look at as a character that kind of like figured money out, was like pretty good with money overall, or no?
I kind of think that she did. Like, I mean, it doesn't come up much in her later storylines, but we don't ever see it like being a problem for her. Yeah. I think she's one of the characters who doesn't ever live alone, if I'm thinking correctly. She's always living with someone. She lives in all 3 of the apartments at various points. She has to move out when Chandler moves in. And then she does try and live with Ross for a while, but things get complicated while Emma's a baby. Then she moves in with Joey. I do not want to talk about the Rachel and Joey storyline.
Let's skip over that. It's weird.
It's so funny because they put it out there and everyone watching it was like, no. And so they were like, okay. But I do think she seems like someone who really has her head on her shoulders. You could imagine that like maybe going through that period of being hard up and being broke has maybe like taught her the lessons that she didn't have before. I would feel relatively confident in her like ability to manage her money like by the end of season 10. For sure. But yeah, I said I was going to ask you who your best and worst friends were. I'm putting you on the spot.
Such a tricky one. So I weirdly have never really like loved Monica.
Yeah, that's fair.
I find that quite odd because I think on paper I would have quite liked her, but I've just always found her a little bit, just a bit annoying. Like
they make her very shrill in the later season.
Yeah, like she's just not as likable. When it comes to best, that is tricky. Do you know what? I think Ross might be my best.
Love that. Absolutely love that because Ross is everyone's worst and I love that he's your best. And also I worked out I'm a Ross.
Yeah.
If I'm a friend, if I'm one of them, right? That's who I am.
Maybe that is why then, because I don't know what it is about him. Like I just really like him. Like if I had to hang out with one of them, I think I would choose Ross. I just think I would find him like funny, but in a not annoying way. And I don't know, I just quite like the fact that he's like a paleontologist. Like, it's just something just quite quirky and
this is good because we get to talk about Ross next.
Yeah.
For me, I think Chandler's my best.
Really?
Yeah. And again, like early seasons, like but I love to watch him. I don't know if I'd like a friend like him, like constantly like interrupting you, so, like making fun of you. I'm not sure I'd love that, but I love him to watch. I don't know about my worst one. I think later seasons Joey is my worst one. I love him earlier on, but they just make him ridiculous. So ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I never watched the Joey spin-off.
No.
I think we pretend that didn't happen, don't we? I don't even see anyone talking about it. Okay, well, let's wrap up for today.
Yeah.
And we'll be back with you next week talking about our next friend. Come find us on socials at Show Me the Money Official. We're the same on Substack, and you will get a lovely little mail from us talking about kind of deep dives, more current affairs. And yeah, please give us a follow and a subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a review, all the usual stuff, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.